Yeah, hi guys. Good morning. So yeah, so let's start our first session. And first of all, thanks everyone for coming on this weekend and spend your valuable time with us. So let us get started. And this is our first virtual meetup. So we have done almost 6 meetups live, and this is our first virtual meetup. And let's get started. So myself, I'm Karthik. So I'm the founder of Mydbops, and I'm into MySQL for more than 10 years now. As a DBA, I have spent like most of the career as a DBA, and I have worked with Fortune 5. Like before even starting my DBOps, I was working with Yahoo, and then I started this my DBOps, and currently for the last 5 years, and currently we are providing support to a number of good customers on the three major open source database platforms like MySQL, Mongo, and the Postgres. Okay. So when it comes to our services, we keep it very simple. So one is the database consulting services, and the other is the database management services. So we keep it very simple and clean, and we focus only on the top three databases. It can be on-prem or on-cloud, and we are also one of the AWS certified partner also. Fine. So this is my agenda today. MySQL 8, I will just give an overview, and then why it is needed for a database engineers. Okay, so this is my audience. So if you look at the modern trend, right, we are working with multiple customers. What we observe is that uh, it's not only the DBAs who manage the database anymore. It's no more the case. So it can be the case like 5 years or 10 years ago. Now, if you look at the organizations, there are DevOps engineers, there are SREs or system admins who manage or are cloud administrators who manage or take care of the systems. So what happens? It's not MySQL now more became a property of a DB. It becomes widespread. If you look at a large organization, they scale a number of stuff like spinning a servers and dropping it becomes very easy now with the cloud adoption and the modern tools like Kubernetes, Ansible, or Terraform. So my talk focus on the how they can use the MySQL well, maybe even to the DBS also, how they can use the MySQL 8 well and may help them in those kind of scaling and stuff. So small thing about MyDB, so MySQL 8. So MySQL 8 was released in 2018, almost 2.5 years ago. And it's one of the giant leap in SQL, people call it as, because previously we are following the ANSI SQL standards in 92. And now we have improved a lot with the window function, common table expression, with group and multiple stuffs in the 8.0. And they have engineering, the MySQL engineering team has done a major job in refactoring the complete code base, like even from changing the data dictionary and the many level of features to enhance the MySQL performance and the InnoDB performance. And as I said, InnoDB, yeah. So even they made the system tables previously. If you look at the MySQL system tables where it stores the users and stuff like that, the metadata, they also become completely atomic with the InnoDB engine. And as a consulting company, we are facing a lot number of migration to MySQL 8. There are people from MySQL 5.6, but they are excited about 8 and they want to 8 and they solve the problem with the MySQL 8. So the adoption is much faster when comparing to the previous releases. And one of the major things which I love about MySQL 8 is even the minor releases has so much stuff. Every minor release has so much amount of releases and features which can be accommodated in a major release. So that's what is really exciting. So that's why I'm coming, because this released 2.5 years ago. So the features, what I am going to talk mainly is focus on the which was released very newly, might be the latest releases, and how they can help you as a database engineer to use and enhance it. So why features? So generally, these features are something which solves a problem. Any feature which solves, example like a parent replication, let's consider, which solves the problem of replication lag because the replication is single threaded previously, let's say in 5.5, and they slowly evolved. You can have generations of parallel replications. Now, so that's the reason they provide solutions. It means they solve some of the complex problems we had it before, and they helps you make it faster. And one of the major thing about features is many times what we observe is people use the latest versions, but they don't have awareness how to use these features and solve the problem and make the database faster. So that's the reason we have to speak about know about the features in advance. So my first feature in the list is the clone plugin. So generally, The general request for any DBA or a database engineer in the production request is, hey, I need this database to be cloned, or I need a backup of it. I need to set up a QA or dev infra. But if you are into MySQL DB, of course, you will use tools like maybe extra backup if you are really good in that, or some cases MySQL dump. So that's not a very easy or feasible solution no more because they can consume time and it's not an out-of-box solution. With MySQL 8.0, with MySQL 8.0, they have introduced the clone plugin. So what it does? So actually it was released almost a year ago. 8017. This is one of the major feature in 8017. We call it as the clone plugin. So what it does is this clone plugin copies the data from a server A, let's say that's a source, and you can have a local backup or a remote backup. And this backup can be used to create a new clone instance of it. So this is not like an enterprise backup or this like extra backup, but this completely works on a different way. The internal process and mechanism is completely different and it's completely faster also. It's more faster than ever before. Okay, and you can control the resources easily. When I say about the clone plugin, you can control the network throttling and what's a donor, what's a source, and many things. And there are many features for built on top of it. So the problem it solves is very simple. I want to set up a replica, of course. Instead of going for my previous or last week's backup and taking time to restore, I can use the live backup and then use it. That's a live backup is like the streaming from the using the clone plugin, and it works with the community version. That's the beauty of it. It's not an enterprise feature, it's a community version. Okay, and it is faster. As I told, it is faster. What we have done than the MySQL dump. So it is 12x faster than the MySQL dump and restore. The clone plugin restore is much more faster. Let's consider time schema. So you can track the progress of it because trackability is one of the key aspect of trackability is one of the key aspect of any DevOps solutions. So that really helps a lot here. And then it also helps in the distributed recovery in case like a InnoDB cluster. You have a 3-node cluster and the node goes down, you can easily recover it and you can automate it also. And as I said before, it supports only the InnoDB engine. And one of the drawback is you need a manual setup of the replica, of course, because they have the positions and everything in the PFS, that is the performance schema. And then you have to use the info and you have to build a new replica out of it. So this is our benchmarking, what you have done, and we have also blogged about it. So this is the timing. So example, it took only 8 minutes as a total, the backup and restoration time for a clone plugin. While comparing to the others, you can see the benchmark results. We have tried the different tools available in the market, open source tools. Of course, the extra backup, MySQL dump, Mydbops, or MyLoader, even the pump. And this is the fastest. And it makes things easy also. Okay. So use cases, as we said, we can easily enable to set up the replica if you need, and then you can make the InnoDB cluster reboots, that is InnoDB cluster, the group replication, and the data reboots for any testing or any purpose. You can take the backup and give it without a normal replica. Cool. And the next feature, what we are going to talk is the InnoDB Replica Set. So this is another exciting feature, which depends on the feature released in the 8017, that is a clone plugin. Okay, so this was released in this year, January, I would say. And this is a part of the MySQL shell utility. Now the shell and the MySQL, everything have a common version. Even the InnoDB and everything has a common version for the easy integration and the easy trackability. So with the shell, now you have the admin API. So using this, you can create a replica set. So the common use case, let's say in a DevOps kind of scenario, you want to scale the number of replicas for the read scaling. And then this can be your savior. Instead of writing your own custom scripts for rebuild and checking it. So this can be savior with MySQL shell. So what you need is the minimum is the MySQL 8017 and you should have a GKD replication. GKD replication is a more stable and more safer replication when comparing to the traditional coordinate based replication. And this also helps in this shell utility, helps in the switchover and failover, that is when you are using the router. But if you're not using a router, you want to build a slave, it's easy. That's a replica set. It's really, really easy. And don't confuse it with the InnoDB cluster. InnoDB cluster is different. This is like a asynchronous replication. Okay. So it's like we are in a peak sale and you want to use this to scale your read capacity on servers. Then as a DevOps guy or as a database engineer, you can create your own playbook with MySQL shell utility, and then you can deploy it faster. So you deploy it, you say the number of instances, you can write your own code, and it gets synchronized and be online quickly. So only thing is that your router or the load balancer should have the awareness about the node addition and the removal. Even that can be automated further. So this solves a number of problems. So if you are new to the database world and if you are not from a MySQL background, you can use this kind of feature and make your organization grow better. Okay. So this is so if someone asks me what is the next to study in MySQL, I would recommend them, okay, MySQL shell will be the next bigger thing for them to learn for this year. So the shell has more number of potential for even the inbuilt tools or even customization. Even you can write your own Python or JavaScript and integrate it easily in shell. Okay. And next important thing, so this is of a recent trend. This is very, very recent tool. So MySQL utility import. This also released with 8017. So let's give the problem case first. The problem case is the data loading. Now you see a lots of migration industry between, let's say, cloud to different clouds or on premises to cloud and everything. And also from migrations from the different data sources into MySQL. Example, you can be an enterprise version of database and now you want to migrate to MySQL. So mostly the changes and data loading is logical. Some cases you might get a CSV. So this utility solves the problem of the CSV loading. So let's see the problem first. So the problem is when you are loading a CSV file, might be any load data in file, this is considered as a single transaction, irrespective of file size. So, and it's not chunked by default. As engineers, we know chunking and parallelism can boost the performance. So what happens with the MySQL import utility is it chunks the files, CSV files, and load them in parallel. Modern hardwares are bigger, like with having a various number of cores, so we can utilize the full power of the hardware, utilize the complete power of the hardware and make it faster. So utility import is the utility which to be used along with the MySQL shell that can make the data imports much faster. And this was released in the last year, that is the July of last year, and we have blogged about it. So this is a snapshot from our blog when our engineers written about it. So very simple. So here he is using around 8 threads and each is holding a chunk of 1 GB. And if you look at the data transfer rate, it's really faster. That's all. So now the data loading, this is also another common problem faced by cloud engineers or the cloud DBS or the DBS in the cloud migration. So we can solve it with this kind of API feature. So only thing you need is the MySQL shell 8017. That's it. It's not about the MySQL server. It is a MySQL shell 8017. Okay, and this is the time difference. It's about 6x faster. If you look at the load data in file, it is taking around 40 to 45 minutes. But if you look at the MySQL load import utility, the same data set, it's taking around 5 to 6 minutes. Even it can be made much faster. I will explain how it can be made much faster in the upcoming slide. So what are the features we are speaking is the integration. If you example like the clone plugin and the InnoDB replica set, they are integrations to make it better. Of course, they can be made much better also in future. Let's look at the next feature. So this is kind of a weird, like disable the redo log. So people who are aware of database, right, they know the importance of the redo log is responsible for the durability, which is the crash recovery. Of course, everything comes with a performance penalty. So in this case, right, redo log is the additional right. Of course, it ensures the ACID property, there is a durability, but when you are sure it can be disabled, you can disable it. So let me give a problem statement. Example, we want to load a huge GBs of data into MySQL, might be a normal dump or a Mydump or whatever, and you are sure you want to make it faster and you don't want to be a durable one. In those cases, if you are sure, we can disable it globally. So it is at a global level, not for a session level, to be very honest. So don't try it on production unless you are sure of this feature. But if it is an initial data load, it's a logical data loading, that's where it really helps a lot. So as I told, these redo logs are writes. Whenever there's writes happening to a disk, of course you are spending some IO on it. Now you can save it. When an IO is saved, it means you can make it faster. It's a very simple like that. So now with this feature, you can disable the redo log and make the loading faster. Now let us compare with the feature, previous one. Now you have the load data in file, you can split it. Now if you are sure it is a first time import and sort of production, before going live, of course you can disable the redo log and make it much faster. So you might get a better performance. Instead of a 6x improvement, you might get 7 or 8x, might be. So it's very simple. The command is alter instance, disable the redo log. Use cases, as I told you, the one-time data loading, data migration, logical data load. Example, people use DBZM kind of workload to transform the data, might be any ETL for initial things. Of course, those cases, they can use it. Mydumper loading, MySQL pump, and stuff like that. Okay, let's go on to the next feature. So this is based on the MySQL shell. So this is called the MySQL dump schemas and load dump, and this is the one of the latest. That is, it is released, I would say 2 months ago, 2.5 months ago, on July. So this is a part of the shell utility released with 8021. So what it does, so previously we have seen the for the CSV files. Now what MySQL team has come up with is, okay, let's take the backups faster. Instead of using a MySQL dump or pump, each one has their own drawbacks and the benefits. Now they are saying, okay, let's use the MySQL dump schemas. So what it does is generally takes the backup, but they are in the not as the traditional text file, which has the insert and alter statements, not. So they'll be like a load data file. You got the difference? So they'll be much smaller. So the schema will be dumped separate and then the data will be dumped separate, like the CSV files. So it will be much smaller in size. When the file is smaller, the IO consumption will be smaller. So that's how it works. So you can define the chunk size and also the parallelism. Now you consider, now you accumulate all these features. Like I have a CSV for loading. Of course, you can make the backups faster now. You can take the backup from X instance, let's say from 5.7 to 8.0 migration, and you have the data in the old format and you have to logically rebuild it. This tool can be of great help. Now it takes the complete backup in a logical backup with a dump schema, and you can compress it, and the compression is enabled by default, and you can increase the parallelism based on your hardware. And there are cases like this can be stored locally, and they have functionality you integrate with Oracle Object Store. So Oracle Object Store is the Oracle MySQL Cloud, which they are recently coming up. Of course, in future there can be integration or a third-party contribution for S3 buckets and other object store buckets also. So this is a sample command. So you can define the chunk size for to take the dump, and you can define the threads, how many threads you have to use for the data loading. So this makes the data loading faster. You have the parallelism, and because you are using the parallelism at the dump and also at the import time. Okay, so this is the performance benchmark they made. This is official performance benchmark released by the MySQL server team. So if you consider right, they have used different data set, example, Stack Overflow data set and Wikipedia data sets and everything. If you look at the right throughput, they have get to the MySQL dump and load is it's around 2800 MB per second, which is really huge. It's really very huge. So that's also problem. So that's what it's about 112x time. I just made a rough calculation. It is 112x time greater than the normal MySQL, that is a MySQL dump. Okay. And next thing, so here they have compared with different tools. They have even tried with the Mydumper. Mydumper is one of the open source solution for the parallel backup and restore. Of course, we have done a lot of research on that. So even comparing to that, this is fast. Most of the DBs in the cloud world might be aware of the MySQL dump and pump, but this is faster. So MySQL Pump is again a backup tool from 5.7, and it has the ability for the parallel backup, but the restore is still single threaded. Now here using this, you can make the restores in parallel threads and the backups in parallel threads, and you can disable the redo log. You can things make much more faster. So this is the benchmarking with disabled redo logs. So okay, so let me come to the next thing. So next thing is the InnoDB dedicated server, though it persists from the earlier version. Let me give a gist of it. So InnoDB dedicated server, sample you are a new to the organization and you are a system admin or new to the MySQL and you are given a new server to configure MySQL. If you are not sure what to optimize, this is an out-of-box solution. You can just use the InnoDB dedicated server. So this will give you a better defaults. I would say completely optimized, but better defaults, which is much better than what is comes with the MySQL by default. So now they have the awareness about the hardware you are using. So what it helps is it helps you to optimize the MySQL variables for it. Example, you can get the performance by tuning like 4 to 5 variables. You can get the performance of 80% of. Trust me, it works. So this can be a solution. InnoDB dedicated server. So this is the variable that is the InnoDB dedicated server, and they can. So what it does is it takes care of the below 4 variables: buffer pool size, log file size in group, and flush method. So previously it supports only 3: the log files in group, which was latestly added in 8014. So you will have default is the 2 files for the redo logs. Now based on your RAM size, it splits into a number of files for the faster writes. So that's what the benchmarking shows. So Dimitri is one of the greatest guy in the MySQL benchmarking. So he has a wonderful job in benchmark, and he claims that with increasing the log file size, means log files in group instead of size, and he sees a major performance throughput. As you said, but the MariaDB is going the other way. What MariaDB says is, okay, you'll go with the single redo log file. Instead of having multiple files, now it's more like an append model in MariaDB. So what MySQL claims is that you can have multiple files for a better write performance. So what happens? So this is the InnoDB dedicated server. So this can be a good solution when you are into automation kind of stuff. Like you are deploying a Kubernetes cluster. You can remove all these 4 variables because you are not sure what your pod size will be and what is the configuration because it has auto scaling. So this variable can help them. And also like you are making a deployments via Ansible playbooks or a Terraform for a cloud deployment, then this variable can be boon for you. Okay, so and there are many other variables I'm really excited about. I can just give a gist of it, even though they are from the start. So one thing is the persist. So previously, like with 5.7, when you make a global change, now you have to go to the MySQL config file and then change the configuration there too. But obviously, there are multiple places you can have the config files. That's the irony of MySQL. Like you can have in the my.cnf or etc MySQL my.cnf or conf of the base directory, data directory. There is a list. Okay, and if you are new to MySQL, you can make mistakes. And also, you have to configure the right location. You have to configure under the MySQL D, not under the MySQL client, which is a MySQL client, or dump or SSD or whatever. So that can be. And also, if you want to make a change via your playbooks, then this will be a good way, good to use it. It's a persist. So what it does is, it makes a separate config file, which is in the data directory, and it's a hidden file. So it have the changes recorded there in a JSON format. So when the MySQL bootstraps, it uses it. So previously, whenever you make a change for any configuration change, it's mandatory to make the change the config file or you are at the risk of losing it. Now this is it's gone away. And also you can track when the changes happened with the performance schema. So who made the config change and at what time, this can be tracked with the performance schema. And another good thing is the schema, that is the instant column addition. You might have heard it already, but this really helps in your pipeline. Like you are using a deployment pipeline, previously MySQL has to rebuild the whole table for a column addition. Now it is more of a meta change, and then you have to give the right defaults. That is, the defaults is mandatory, and then you can do a change instantly. So algorithm equal to instant. Of course, it try to use the instance by most of the times, but if you don't have one, you can use it. So Beyond that, other major features which I like to see is the explain analyze. This is a performance feature which is raised recently. Like we have the now we have also have the join optimization for the left join also, that is a hash join. Previously it's there for left join or the left join also. Now explain analyze, which is different from the traditional explain, because traditional give you the optimizer plan, but explain analyze what it does is if you're keen into performance and optimization. So what it does is executes the query internally and collects the timing the query spends on the various stages. So that will be more helpful to identify where my query time is spent. So explain analyze is one of the good feature, and explain format equal to tree. So if you look at the current set of formats, it's like explain is the plain Tableau structure, and format JSON is much more vivid structure, and format is equal to 3 is equal to the Postgres or Oracle kind of feature, because MySQL only have the tabular. If you look at the other databases, they have the format, the execution plan format only in the tree. So if you are from another database and you are migrating to MySQL, and this will be more correlated very easily. And next, what I love is the functional index. This is one of the key feature, I would say. Previously, whenever we try to make the change in the queries, the functions, they mask the index. Example, a uppercase, where upper of name is equal to upper of something. So it masks the index, even though I have the index, I can't use it. So this is completely taken away with this feature. Now I can create the index based on the function, and then so the index is created for the functional output, not for the actual data. That's a difference. So example, if you create for actual data, right, you might be in the lower case and your B tree scans based on the lower case, not based on the uppercase. Because with the function, you transform the data into another form. Now the index is created for the transformed data. So with MySQL 5.7, we have the virtual column that's stored and stuff like that. Now this can be made better. And the next thing which I love about is the histograms. So histograms controls the data distribution. That means you can visualize the data distribution, and it gives a better optimizer stats. Let me give a small example. Now you have different status, like status of the, let's say, let's consider a chat web mechanism, like you are online or offline or away. There are, let's say, 3 different mechanisms. Now, if you try to have a 3 value and for, let's say, 1,000 people, then the selectivity is 1 by 3. It means it always thinks that whenever you try to query a value based on the status, the data thinks like, okay, it's going to scan at least 30 to 40 records. The selectivity is such that. So, but the real case, the data distribution will be different. The data distribution is based on the example, the people can online can be better and offline can be better, but the away can be limited, can be less than 10. So now this ensures you can have the better stats so that optimizer can use the index and make it faster. So the histogram is a very good feature, and we have solved multiple problems with that. And multi-valued index, this is for the JSON, like you have a JSON column and you have to index it. This multi-valued index can really help a lot. So I believe I have come to the end of the session, and let me know if you have any questions.